Hey guys, this is FG here, learning about the bureaucracy. I hope you'll learn about it anyway. This unit goes along with the presidency, and you'll be tested on the presidency and bureaucracy together. So, what's going on is that we have the federal bureaucracy, and during the early part of our country when Andrew Jackson was president, he had something called the spoils system that was giving jobs to loyal supporters and folks that gave him money, basically. So it was called the spoils system. During the early time of our history, the Civil War caused the government to really grow. We needed we needed more services, such as the Department of Agriculture, the pension office. So what's going on is we have the spoils system that's going to last between these two presidents right here, Andrew Jackson, AJ, and James Garfield. James Garfield was actually assassinated because one of his, well, it wasn't really a supporter of this one guy. He wanted a job, and he thought he deserved it, and he didn't get the job, and he ended up shooting Garfield. And so between these two presidents, we go from the spoils system to the merit system. The merit system is getting a job on your merits, your qualifications. And this was created by the Pendleton Act in 1883. And during the Progressive era, it was all about civil service reform. Alright, bureaucrats. These are the people that actually work in the federal government. And I've got a cartoon. It says the Department of Bureaucracy is song and dance. So through this lesson, I hope you'll see what that song and dance means. If you work for the government, you're considered a civil servant, and that's somebody who works for the government on any level. And when we talk about the federal bureaucracy, we mean either the structure or the federal employees. I'm not talking about state and local here. Some of the bureaucrats are appointed by the president, but most aren't. These are non-elected public officials, and there's, well, almost 3 million of these guys and gals. Alright, in this chart we're going to look at where do federal employees work. I'm going to get it up. Okay. Most of this work graph here, this is the executive branch. Almost 70% work for the executive branch. And then got the sliver of the pie here for the judicial branch, and then the legislative branch. So most work for the executive branch. And I'm going to give you some examples here. As far as regulating commerce, that's going to be one big function of working for the executive branch. Here's a picture of Teddy Roosevelt here. And during his presidency, he was, became president in 1901 after McKinley was assassinated. He's going to be elected in his own right. Anyway, let's talk about the Interstate Commerce Commission. The purpose of this was to initially regulate the railroads. The Populist Party, they decided that they were getting the short end of the stick with the railroads, so they pushed the government, push. Then finally the government is going to get this law passed that says the federal government can regulate commerce between the states. Independent regulatory commissions were created, and note the word independent, alright, and note regulatory. These are groups that I'll talk about in another slide that regulates and basically has rules on what we have to do and what we can't do. Alright, during TR's administration, 1901, 1909, there was a huge growth in the federal government, the federal bureaucracy. He had two departments that were created: commerce, obviously dealing with businesses, and labor. The labor movement during this time period was huge. Had lots of strikes going on that you'll learn about when you take U.S. history, if you haven't had it yet. Other than Teddy Roosevelt, we had Woodrow Wilson. Alright, Woodrow Wilson created the Federal Trade Commission and the Commerce and Labor Department. They were split up, and so we have a Commerce and Labor. It used to be all together here with TR. All right. The world wars and the growth of government. Some events that led to the growth of government would be the First and Second World Wars, the Great Depression, okay, and the Great Society. The Great Society was a huge increase in the federal bureaucracy during Lyndon Johnson's administration. He became president after JFK was assassinated, and he was very, very instrumental, along with the democratically controlled Congress during his first term, to create some agencies and commissions, get laws passed to help people get out of poverty. He had what was called the War on Poverty. So in 65, we had the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the Civil Rights Act, which was a huge law in American history. It said there's going to be no discrimination in public facilities as far as segregated facilities. HUD, Housing and Urban Development, and then the Transportation Department was created. So increase, increase, increase. Government workers and political involvement. Two laws that we need to worry about here. One is the Hatch Act. That's a 39 law that prohibited civil servants from taking activist roles in partisan campaigns. Federal employees cannot make political contributions, work for a particular party, or campaign for a particular candidate. So 1939, that was really, really harsh. Just because you work for the government, this is limiting, a lot of your basic freedoms. If you want to speak out for a candidate, and that's going to last for a while until a reform law is going to be passed in 93 that's going to give federal employees a lot more leeway as far as what they can do as far as elections and campaigning. So this law said federal employees can run for office in nonpartisan elections. They can contribute money to campaigns in partisan elections. All right, just a quick visual on what they can and can't do. This is what does the Federal Employees Political Activities Act of 93 stipulate? What does it say? Here's what they can do. Like I said earlier, they can do this. They can assist in voter drives. They can contribute money. They can sign petitions, etc. Here's stuff they can't do. Use their official authority to influence or to interfere with an election. Lots they can't do. If they've got their uniform on, check it out. They can't engage in a public activity. And all federal employees get this little pocket guide on what you can and can't do. Alright, the executive branch. Who's in the executive branch? Alright, it's more than the president, obviously. We've got the WHO, the White House office. I have a slide for each of these. EOP, Executive Office of the President. We have the President's Cabinet that was first created by President Washington. And we also have independent agencies and regulatory commissions. This is the EOP, the Executive Office of the President. And the folks that work in there, we have the VP, the White House office. Look at all these advisors. Office of Management and Budget, dealing with cash. National Security Council. You can see lots of various agencies. Okay, the White House office. Let's talk about that. These are the folks that work in the West Wing, and around 500 people now, and they are the president's closest advisors. These are the people he sees on a daily basis and gets advice, obviously, and depends on them to listen to them, and he listens to them, we hope. Staffers do not have to be confirmed by the Senate, so the president can appoint whomever he wants. He has a chief of staff, domestic advisors, legislative liaisons, and the press secretary. Usually the press secretary will give a statement every day or two. Some presidents like to give a daily statement, to have his press secretary give a daily statement. There are different styles of the president. Presidents have historically had different styles. You know, a pyramid structure, that's going to be more, think about, a triangle, a pyramid, and the president at the top, and he divvies out the duties all the way down. He says, here's what you need to do, and it goes to the appropriate position to do that. A circular structure, that would be more, let's sit around and chat about this and get input from all sorts of advisors. Ad hoc, that's just really sort of random, and there's no specific chain of command. The EOP, the Executive Office of the President. Agencies that report directly to the President, and the leaders of these agencies must be approved by the Senate. The most powerful one is going to be the Office of Management and Budget, and they have to write an annual budget. The CIA, our spy agency. Council of Economic Advisors, dealing with our national economy. Office of Personnel Management, dealing with federal employees. National Security Council, and the Office of U.S. Trade Reps. That's the EOP. Okay, some different bureaucratic agencies. Alright, it will be all our departments, and the last one that was created was Homeland Security as a result of 9/11. We have government corporations, and government corporations are supposed to make a profit. The most obvious government corporation is going to be the post office. Amtrak's another one. We have independent executive agencies, and finally regulatory commissions. Alright, who's in the cabinet? If you're in the cabinet, if you're a leader of a cabinet, you're going to be called a secretary, all except for the Justice Department, and you're going to be called the Attorney General. So the 15 departments were created along the way in history. President Washington created the first 3 cabinets: State Department, Treasury, and War. The War Department eventually became the Department of Defense. Defense sounds a little bit more positive than war. So these departments are a large, broad area administrative units that are responsible for a national interest function. Okay, we have 15 of them, as I said. The Tenure of Office Act. This law was passed right after the Civil War during Andrew Johnson's administration. It said basically you can't fire anybody you didn't hire. All cabinet secretaries have to be confirmed by the Senate, and they can be fired by the President. And all these departments have subdivisions. So the TSA, part of Homeland Security. Alright, the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB. It was created in 21 by the Budget Accounting Act, and what it did was set up to aid the President in drawing up the annual budget. It also decides which agencies will get money each year, so that is huge. What agencies will be appropriated cash. Budgeting is the way the President controls the bureaucracy. He also decides which agencies will get the most money. Currently it's the Defense Department, and it has been the DOD for quite some time. I think since the Cold War. Alright, and we have independent agencies and commissions. Right? Independent. The President appoints members of these agencies. They have a quasi-independent status, but not totally independent. The heads of these independent agencies, some of them are the Federal Reserve Board, and the Federal Reserve Board, they control the banking in our country, such as what the interest rates are, how much money is in circulation, etc. The Consumer Product Safety Commission, that's another example, making sure we have safe products, and you can look on any product that you buy and it has warnings. So the heads of these agencies, they're going to serve for a fixed term, and they can be removed only if there's a reason. Executive agencies, the Postal Service and all cabinet departments are included, and you can be let go by the prez anytime if he doesn't like what you're doing. Okay, independent executive agencies. What does that mean? It means that these are governmental units that closely resemble a cabinet department, but have narrower areas of responsibility, and they're going to perform services rather than regulate. Here's some examples. CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, or Spy Group, NASA, Space Exploration, and the Environmental Protection Agency. Okay, government corporations. Like I said earlier, they're supposed to make a profit. And these are businesses, so businesses should make money. They're established by Congress to perform functions that could be provided by the private sector. The Tennessee Valley Authority, that was created during the Great Depression to create jobs, basically through hydroelectric energy in the West Virginia coal mining region. A lot of these people back then did not have electricity. FDIC stands for Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and that means our money is safe in the banks. Amtrak, and the post office. That looks pretty sleek. Okay. Alright, independent regulatory agencies. These are agencies created by Congress to exist outside the major departments, and they're going to regulate. It may be economic, it may not be. But in 1935, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled these agencies protected from political pressure, so you couldn't be fired if you're a regulatory agency. So presidential appointments, you have to be confirmed by the Senate, and they're going to serve staggered terms, anywhere from 7 to 14 years, and members of the board are bipartisan, and they're never going to have an equal number on these boards because they never want a tie. Some examples are going to be OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, Federal Communications Commission, Federal Elections Commission. How does this bureaucracy work? There's this guy, economist, Max Weber, and he believed that there should be a bureaucracy, and bureaucracies needed a chain of command. Everybody has a specific function that they do, and our government would work smoothly. And we have iron triangles, issue networks, and interagency councils. You had to watch a video on iron triangles, and that's the relationship between congressional committees, independent regulatory commissions, and then a department. So issue networks, these guys are going to be interest groups that join together to get policy passed. And interagency councils, that's going to be different groups within the government. And what they're going to be doing is they're going to be making policy. Here's a picture of our iron triangle. Our bureaucratic agency, our interest groups, and then our congressional committees. And we'll have an activity in class that we're going to deal with this. So more on that to come. I know you're so excited. Alright, almost done, guys. Alright, how are they held accountable? This is what the president has the authority to do. As I said earlier, appoint and remove the leaders of these agencies. He can restructure or reorganize, not give them as much money. What can Congress do? Pass laws that changes how the bureaucracy works. They can get rid of programs, refuse to give cash. And finally, the judicial branch. They can rule on whether the bureaucrats have acted within the law. They can require changes in the policy they've implemented. So all three branches have an influence on the bureaucracy. And there you have it.